Josh.
Hi.
Thank you so much for making the time.
Of course. Glad to be here.
You are, well, okay. Let's talk about how I found you. Do you even know how I found you?
I don't.
Okay. I found you because, we're going to talk a lot about your story, but I found you because maybe you got recommended to me by a lot of independent news sources that I follow on Instagram Threads. And I saw you covering the ICE facility here in Portland.
Oh, wow. That was over a year ago, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've been following you for a while. And whenever I saw you speaking about what was happening, I was like, yes. Someone sees it similarly to me. And so I felt aligned there, but also the more I got to know who you were as a person, I mean, from what you can tell on social media
Sure.
and what you're trying to accomplish, I got even more excited because you just seem like you have a fire underneath your ass to help care in a very, very deep and powerful way. And it really comes through in your journalism and in your humanitarianism. Yes. And so I really was excited about what you could bring. And I just think you're an awesome person from what I know. So I look forward to sharing more about what it is that you're up to and what made you who you are.
Yeah.
If you're willing to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big old question to start this off. So
yes, please.
so the short version would be, so I'm actually from the Midwest. I was born and raised in a small little farm town in Indiana. When I was 17, I had just fresh out of high school, moved out to San Francisco, Bay Area. In a lot of ways, I think you can say I moved there. I think internally, innately, I knew it was more of running away from something than it was running towards something. I think I just needed to get out of the bubble that I was raised in. There's parts of me that will always be part of me because of my first few years in, a small little farm town. But I very much found who I really am once I got out of that bubble.
Sure.
So I lived in San Francisco for a few years, moved up to Portland, and I've been able to, life is just a gift. And the gift that Portland has been to my life, and then I hope the gifts I offer to our city as well. I think it's been a beautiful exchange between the city and then my identity. How I landed into the work I'm doing now is just such a mixed bag. I think from very early years, I didn't grow up with a camera. I didn't grow up learning or studying film or being fascinated with it. I think if there's anything that I'm actually good at in the world, it's just I am passionate about storytelling. I think stories can save people's lives. I think they can keep us alive. I think they can remind us why we're alive in the first place.
Yes.
It is how we tell our history. You don't know what was going on during Paul Bunyan's time, but you know his name and you know his story, right? So we tell our history. We theorize about our future through story. So I think it's the way that our human species, it's how we drive the engine that is our life. And so I've, in some ways, I've dedicated myself to that work, and how that is playing itself out right now is through conflict reporting, mainly throughout the Middle East, some here domestically in the U.S., and through some documentaries and a few other ways.
Do you regularly travel to Iran right now?
Not right now. This year is a very weird year. I'm supposed to be in Lebanon right now. And the way to get there was, I mean, I literally had a meeting this morning where we talked about it. It was just, I was ready to go. I was ready to get out of here as soon as I possibly could. I would have to fly to JFK, go from JFK to, I believe, Athens, Greece, go to Greece to Cyprus, pay someone to get me on a boat to take me to Lebanon. It's the only way to get there. And most of the time, the humanitarian place that I do conflict reporting for, they're like, do what you need to do. This time they were like, we're not going to let you leave. Sorry. So it's a little, yeah, it's rough. Things in the Middle East are intense, but so far this year, I haven't been able to leave the States just because of what it looks like get over there. But I'm itching to get out of here, man. I'm ready to get over there and do what I do best. But it's just not in the cards right now.
I'm fascinated by people who are drawn to conflict. Tell me more about why you're itching to get over there. Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, I don't think it's that I'm drawn to conflict. The thing that I think I'm drawn to is finding the beauty that can be found in the midst of conflict. There's a recent video another reporter put out. You know, there are how many videos out there of bombs dropping in Gaza or Iran or Iraq or even the West Bank and Lebanon. We can find those all the time. And I would argue that another clip of a bomb dropping or another dead body doesn't really pull us forward into creating change. But what does is, I saw this video a couple days ago of this little girl on a Beirut beachfront swinging on a swing set. And behind her was a building that was on fire from a bomb. I would argue finding moments of beauty like that to remind us that we are the exact same person as that person, as this little girl. We are the exact same people. We are so far removed from the idea of empathy for people, quote unquote, over there. And I think that's what I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to the family who's having their iftar meal in a blown up building in Gaza. I'm captivated by the idea of Palestinian people who have to go through the same IDF checkpoints that I had to go through. And the fact I went through almost fine without any problems, but my Arabic / Israeli / Palestinian driver had to get put through the ropes. I think moments like that, those particular moments inside of the universal conflict narrative, yeah, I think that's what drives us forward to actually trying to create change.
Are you scared?
Define scared. Like what do you mean scared?
Like when you go through an IDF checkpoint, are you terrified?
I'm more terrified about them purging all my SD cards because I essentially got arrested the last time I was trying to get back into Israel. So I'm more scared about losing all the footage I had just shot for 2 days than my own life. No, if the idea of being scared about being hurt or kidnapped or not to make it sound like this big whatever Anthony Bourdain type of badass life, which is not. I'm the most boring person you ever come across when I'm home. But
you don't need to be exciting.
But the idea of being scared, I think I'm more scared about just not doing anything. There's two things that are some of the biggest fears of my life. One is being old and waking up every day to sit in a chair and just turn on the TV and to take my pills and then go to bed at 3 p.m. And that's my life. I'm afraid of that. The other one is me waking up and doing something with my life that has no value. And for me, value is doing whatever I can to help shape or even move our world towards a different direction. Not even so much the world as it is the next person that's like right across the street. If I can help do something with what I can do, if I can offer you something in order for you to see bigger what is happening in the world, that to me is value. I'm more afraid of not doing that than for me to have to go sleep in another bomb shelter.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's a generational thing. Number one, I was raised by a boomer mom, and listen, people tell me my superpower is I can outwork anybody, and there's one person I can't outwork, and it's my mom. She is the hardest worker I've ever known in my life. But she comes from a generation where it's you put in the hard work and you just go do the job, right? Yeah. And she's someone who has been like, go pursue the thing, but you also got to pay the bills. Go do what you got to do, but you also might have to go get a couple side jobs. I came from that generation, from that, geopolitical landscape in the Midwest, where it's like you don't go do all those things. You go to school to go to college in order to go get a job, and then you get married and you buy a house and you live the suburban life,
which doesn't exist.
And for some people, they pretend like it does, and I think that pretendness, for me, that's the thing that I think
terrifies you.
It terrifies me. I did data entry for 3 months when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, this is literally hell on earth for me. Yeah. Some people love it. I have friends who they love the idea of clocking out 9 to 5. My job, I don't have clock in. It's whenever, whatever time, especially with things in the Middle East. It could be at 2 or 3 a.m. when I get that Slack message. But yeah, that fear comes from, I think, other people. I've just seen people, I don't know, not to make it sound so dreadful, I've seen people just do nothing with their lives.
Yeah.
Outside of pay off the house. That's the payoff for your entire existence. Yeah. Is I don't have to pay a mortgage anymore. To me, that's, if that's the goal for other people, beautiful, well done. For me, that's a nightmare.
Do you even own a house?
No, I will never own a house. Girl, I'm a millennial. We love paying our rents. I'll just keep it at that.
Okay, all right. I haven't asked one question. By the way, I have so many. Okay, so when you think about who you are today, where does that story actually start?
Oh, man. Okay, so I used to spend a significant time in religious spaces. I was always involved in church stuff growing up, and I think
Your family is religious?
In the way that a conservative family would be. I had a very, conservative, Republican, traditional upbringing. Okay. So in the way that they would be, yeah, my mom was heavily involved in church stuff. Therefore, I was as well. And I think I was told this is what you believe and you don't ask questions. Mm-hmm. But I think alongside of that, there was a lot of questions, even as a kid, that I had. And I think it just got to a point where I could not ask those questions anymore. And so eventually I found myself outside of that space. And then when you go spend time with Muslims in the Middle East, your idea of spirituality just kind of not only blows up, but blows up so you can see the grander picture of just what it means to be human and your place in the world and whatever else is happening beyond you and inside of you, etc. So how I got into journalism was I had spent a good amount of my time helping people with their, spiritual practice, if that's what you want to call it. And it really came down to what are the things that I'm good at and what are the things I want to invest my time into and how does that help shape the world? So going back to that, storytelling and just story as a whole was I think the engine for my entire life. And I think beyond that, I had always been involved in some sort of photography, videography, audio, podcasting, whatever it is. So I kind of just put those two and two together, reached out to, I did know this. I did not want to do traditional journalism. I wanted my journalism to point to something more than just give this attention and be aware of what's happening. I wanted it to have another one, which is what should we do with this information? So for me, the best thing to do was if I can be a conflict reporter in the Middle East, then I want to do something with an organization that's actually helping keep those people alive. So reached out to a place called Humanite, and the rest is been there for a few years, and the rest is history.
What was your childhood like emotionally, not just situationally?
So me being I'm 37, right? So I'm in that millennial space where your childhood was analog, and then the rest of your life, your late teens, was all digital. Uh, I think in that too, we grew up in an era where there was always a war happening in the world. I think now it's known that the millennial generation has lived through more wars, and what they mean by that actually is we are the one generation who has intaked more information about war than any other. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you think about World War II, like everything was analog, right? Like, how did
Mm-hmm.
you get your news about the Titanic? It came through a newspaper once everything had been packaged. Now you scroll on Instagram and a person who actually lives there is getting bombed. So we were the first generation. We were the guinea pigs for that digital space. So my childhood was this very small, siloed, I would argue for me, a very lonely, like I live here, but like I'm not supposed to exist here. It was a lot of just kind of me doing my own thing. And then you get into your teen years where you can start looking towards making decisions for your life. And I just knew the minute I can, I'm out of here. And at the same time, you see, you grow up in the MySpace era where you then see the pictures from the party you weren't invited to as it's happening, right? So like that idea of just like I wasn't the nerd, I wasn't the jock. I was just kind of like I was doing my own thing. I was just always kind of alone. And I think for a lot of people, they'd be like, "Oh, that's so sad." I'm a huge introvert at heart. I can spend days by myself if I need to. And I think a lot of that just came from a lot of independency when I was growing up. So I think that really helped capitulate myself to a point where I felt calm of like, hell yeah, like turn 17, we're moving to California.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any siblings?
No, that's just me.
You really were alone. So, who did you have to become early in life to navigate your environment?
Yeah, there's a lot of versions of me I've definitely killed off. And I think there's a lot of I think there was a lot of versions of me that existed to survive. And then once I was in a place where I'm like, this, I can now fully be, how should I say it, come into myself. Then that's when I felt like I could actually be like who I am. I feel like when I was in high school, someone with very little responsibility, no one just kind of like really cared, right? And I mean that in a good way. Like they're not looking at you for direction or guidance. You're just kind of doing your own thing. I feel like that was the first maybe 17, 18, 19 years old, maybe even 16-ish, those later years of my high school life. I was very much who I feel like I am today. And I feel like in my 20s, I lost myself. I feel like in my 20s, I was trying to be this thing that everyone was telling me I was supposed to be,
Mm.
whether it's in church spaces or spiritual spaces or guides and mentors. And then, COVID era hits and you're kind of by yourself again. And when you're by yourself, you start looking inward for conversation. And I think there was a pivotal moment in 2023, maybe early 2024. So just a couple of years ago, where I was like, anything that I feel like I'm just doing something for the sake of being something that someone else told me I have to be, we're killing that off. So yeah, there has been multiple iterations for me to get to the point where I feel like I am today. And I'm sure I'll look back 35 years from now and be like, yeah, that version of him is gone, and there's a new one that exists.
Do you see it as personal growth?
Sure, I think we can call it that. I think it's just what it means to be human.
Were you someone who paid attention to injustice or suffering as a kid, or did that come later?
So when you grow up in church spaces, suffering in the world points to something in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was conditioned in a way to think that when something happens in the world, it's okay because you're safe, because you believe in this thing. And then I think when you get into your later teen years. Also, I'll just say this is the most I've looked back on my life in so long. Usually people are just like, so let's talk about Lebanon. And you're like, so what was it like when you were 5?
It's different.
It is different. I mean, it's all callbacks to, what you're doing in your life now. I think there was a lot of safety involved of like if something happens to you, like the idea of Western Christianity is a permission slip to do whatever bad things you need to do in life because the Bible says so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a get out of hell for free card, if that existed, which it doesn't. And then also the get out of being a good person card sometimes as well. You see the person in need and you're like, well, he's not a Christian, which is something you'll hear in the Midwest. And so you end up not helping that person, right? So I think I grew up with that around me. And then I think a pivotal moment for me was Charlottesville, 2017, late 2018. And I started doing some deep dives into how religious spaces play into just like modern day racism, which led to one of the biggest interviews I did last year with the Grand Wizard of the KKK, and
my God,
who is also a pastor, a Christian pastor.
You did an interview with that person?
Yes, and I can safely say it's the most unsafe place. It was in the middle of some compound in Arkansas. I literally just got back from Palestine less than a month before and had slept in a bomb shelter one night there. And I felt more unsafe there. And we can get into why, because there was a pivotal switch that happened to me where I was like, oh, something's off here, which was really, really interesting for me. But
yes, let's get into why when you're finished.
We can. So per my work, I've had to be in hostile places, which then also includes hostile people. There's something in me where if I can feel a sense of humanity, if I can look you in the eyes and I feel like, oh, you are just like me. You believe in this thing because now I understand throughout this conversation, whatever it is, you were led to believe in this because this is what your dad was involved in. And this is what, and
your lineage.
Exactly. And so if I can look at you and I can visibly tell like, oh, you are just like me. You're just another human and you got a bad beat. And this is how you ended up here. Mm. That calms my central nervous system down to a place where I can feel safe in hostile places. In that interview, you can see in the first hour of that interview, I am as cool as a cucumber. And then there's something about halfway through, you can see me get a little, I'm just fumbling over my words. You can hear a little bit of some like timidness in my vocal cords. And I recall during that about halfway through, I could not find his humanity. I could not find any, there was a hollowness in Thomas Robb's eyes that I could not get past. And so eventually in that conversation, I'm like, I have zero connection with you. And immediately my anxiety went up. Immediately my entire body was like, this is an unsafe place for you. You do not belong here because there's nothing human about what you're hearing right now. And this is coming off of me being in a hard conversation with a Hasidic Jew in Jerusalem, talking about who also has heavy ties to the IDF, and was telling me that all Palestinian people should be dead and get out of their cities. And I'm in a room surrounded by people who know my position on things and easily there. Not that this would have happened, but yeah, I could have easily disappeared. and that would have been it. And then I'm back here in the States, literally with a Walmart 20 miles down the road, and I'm like, this is not a good place for me to be in right now.
Mm-hmm. I would argue it's your instinct was spot on. I think we're led to believe that this country is safe, and I think it's the least safe.
It's the most safe for a very particular type of person. And it's the least safe for anybody else who doesn't fit in that mold.
Mm-hmm. And even if you do, you're still just being sold a story that you could be safe.
And I think that even points back to that idea of what we were talking about earlier, like living in the suburbs and having a house. It's just it's something that we all tell ourselves in order to feel like that we can fit in.
I own a house because it's the only thing you can own.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Most of my work is in nonprofit work, so that and for the profit doesn't really, result in a massive income for a house.
No, I know. I was a slave to my career in my 30s, to my careers in my 30s in order. I always tell everyone calls it the blood diamond house, but yeah, I definitely earned it.
That's great.
Yeah. Yes.
But
it came at a price.
Yeah, but look at what you did with your life now, right? So I think that's the beauty in it. Like,
thank you.
You can work your ass off to get yourself to a place where you can, own the blood diamond house, right? But then you had to make a decision at some point. And you probably made that decision, I'm guessing, in your 30s, right? Somewhere established where you're like, I'm going to make a bit of a shift with my life. Tell me if I'm completely off here, or
a shift with what I'm doing with my life.
Sure. Yeah.
I had to. It was a health concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
my body couldn't keep up.
Yep. Yeah. So literally your mind was saying we have to do this, but your actual physical body was like, we can't do this anymore.
Yep.
And you listened. That's rare.
Well, I listened. It is rare. It's what I built my practice on. But I listened because I was about to lose my eyesight, and that scares the shit out of me. So it was grave. And that's actually what I had. I had something called Graves' disease.
Wow.
So it scared the shit out of me. You could say it was a spiritual awakening of many that I've had, but it was a hard no in my body.
Yeah.
I knew it, and I knew it previous to that diagnosis, but that made it almost impossible to continue on.
Yeah.
I was burning the candle at both ends, and I was doing it in my personal life and my professional life. So I was trying to, as my kid would say, I was sinking in the Titanic and holding it all together with shitty tape and glue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew I was going down, but I couldn't let it fall.
Yeah.
So that's my story. My story, yeah, I did a hard shift. I was basically a year older than you.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I completely rebuilt my life, but I've done that multiple times. I've had to. And so I made a hard left, and that's when I moved from San Francisco.
Amazing.
To Portland. Okay. And it took me 10 years to convince my family to move here. And I finally won. I was like, I'm leaving without you, and you can come with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I don't want to get too much into me.
That's good.
We can talk more about that too. I'm an open book. I'm happy to answer, but I definitely want to focus on who you are and why you are the way you are. What did you learn about responsibility growing up? Because you sure take a lot on.
Sure. If there's something that my mom gave me growing up, it is the idea of working hard. And not just the idea of working hard for the sake of working hard, but working hard in order for something to happen, scale, growth, change. And I think inside of that is also, if something lands in your hands, yeah, be responsible for it. And so I think responsibility and a solid work ethic, yeah, that was so ingrained in me growing up. I think my mom also expected me to be responsible for more than what other people would be responsible for.
Do you think that was because you were an only child?
I think it's because she knew she took on more than what other people would, and because I'm the offspring of her, she expected me to do the same. And I don't again, like I don't I think that was the perfect call for her. I was a terrible kid.
Were you?
I think so. I always had questions about everything. I was so independent to the point of like, even as a kid, and like I was a perfectionist. That was something else that was like a big thing. Like I would draw my mom a picture and she wanted to put it up on the fridge. I'd be like, no, this is not the thing to put up on the fridge. I don't want other people to see this. You wanted me to draw you a picture. I drew you a picture. This is not for other people to see. So like there was things in me that, and there was some other, my brain. So not to completely deflect from that, but like I dealt with severe social anxiety and panic disorder in my early 20s, all of my 20s. But a lot of that stemmed from, you have to be this thing, you have to look this certain part. And my mind just does not shut off. I would wake up as a kid with my mind just going. Like I would literally like sit in bed and just like hold my head and be like, please, can you just stop so I can go back to sleep? And it would just be like regurgitating every little thing that I would witness or experience that day. And so there was just a lot of that going on top of, my mom really wanting me not to like be something, but to fully allow myself. Like she expected more out of me than anybody else in the world. And I think in some capacity, that's what she expected out of herself. Yeah. So she expected out of me as well.
And you still think that you were a difficult kid?
I mean,
by your curiosity and your independence?
Well, curiosity was not a desirable trait to
a boomer.
Boy,
did you overstate that. Yes.
So I think that's where it really...
I know. I had the same problem.
Yeah, 100%, right? So I think that's where it boiled down to like, I'm not going to pursue this, Mom, because like I don't want to do this. Like I remember one conversation we had when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13, where, again, boomer mom, she's like, got to start thinking about next steps after high school. And again, I say all this to say like she made all the right calls, but, I would tell her what I would want to go do. And she would tell me like, you can go do whatever you want. Just know if you go and do this, you're probably going to have other jobs on top of this. And I would push back hard on things like that. And I think I saw where the world was going before the world went there. What I mean by that is, digital spaces and how that was just so utterly foreign to her generation.
Yeah.
Her generation was, you got to put in the time, like decades worth of time in order for you just to be able to survive. And I was like, I'd much rather just live out of my truck and just like figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life next. I'd much rather do that than have things and freshly mowed grass and whatever all this equates itself to.
What did care look like in your family?
Yeah, care is an interesting word, and I think you can even make that present tense. Like, what does care look like now? Care is hard. I think for me personally, care is hard. I believe that care should come to yourself before it should go out to anybody else, because you can't really care for other people unless you care for yourself. I tend to exhaust myself into my work for other people, and sometimes completely neglect care for my own self. And I think that even goes to your question about responsibility, where if someone hands you something, you don't invest time into yourself. You go take care of the thing that the thing that you're responsible for. And yeah, it's a gift to be responsible for a lot of things in my life. And sometimes that comes at a cost of care.
Mm-hmm. What did you not receive that you had to learn to give yourself?
I mean, yes, that's my answer. I literally mean that. I think all of it. I don't think I was handed the things that I should have been handed for my identity. I was handed a very general, systematic template of this is the things, that you should care for in your lives, the things you should be responsible for. And I just never really fit that mold ever.
So you're kind of like a rebel.
Sure. Yeah. I'll take it.
When did storytelling first become part of your identity?
When I was 4 years old, I wrote a book called A Mouse in the House. And it was on construction paper. It was literally about a mouse who lives in a house, and then people move into his house. So we see it as people move into a home and, oh my God, there's a mouse in our house, right? But so I wrote that idea from the perspective of the mouse. And like he had to get around the mouse traps that they put in the house. And eventually, it ends with the people moving out because the mouse is basically like, this is my home. Do whatever you want. I'm not leaving. You're renters in my home. So it's kind of from what we see as a pest in our home. We see it from the pest's perspective. So I think from a very early age, my imagination, when you spend a lot of time alone, you get the gift of thinking a lot. And if you can turn that into imagination, I think when you're lonely, you become bored, and boredom leads to imagination. Imagination leads to innovation. I think innovation leads to empathy and care and concern. And so, yeah, I think that was to answer your question, I think that was a big thing that I just had to hand myself because, again, I was handed a lot of things that just I don't even use in my life today.
Sorry,
No,
I'm looking to
you're
see
good.
what you already answered. Okay. How do you define truth in your work?
I think the same way that I would define truth in my life. I think every universal situation in the world has a particular. I would also argue that people don't care about the universal conflicts in the world as much as they do the particular stories that are happening inside of it. We know about the ice raids in Minnesota, but more than that, we know about Renee Good. We know Alex's story. We know the particular people who were events inside of that. And Renee Good's story in Minneapolis being shot by an ICE agent, that is the truth inside of the holistic picture of what is happening. So I think finding honesty or truthfulness in telling the greater story, yes, you have to look at the broader picture, what is happening geopolitically, geographically, even especially in the Middle East, geographically, what is this leading to?
What do you think it's leading to?
What's happening in the oh man, I mean, you got 4 more hours because
I have as long as you have.
So I work for a place who our staff outside of maybe myself and a couple other people are all refugee led. All the founders are refugees, and they come from decades long of war conflict,
Mm.
specifically Gulf War, specifically even like Vietnam.
Mm.
Mainly, I think where my organization's teeth really got, we really dug in was during the Iraq invasion. The founder of Humanite, the place I work for, lived in Iraq during that. So they have seen conflicts go from nothing to 100%. And then what a lot of people don't talk about, once the cameras leave, what happens there after sanctions or internal government developments, et cetera, right? The interesting thing that is happening right now, and this is just straight facts, what's happening in Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, nothing has escalated this quickly ever in modern history, ever. There's so much shrugging that happens on our calls where when we ask, like, what's the major play? And you're looking at people who lived through Saddam Hussein's dictatorship, and they're just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'll give you a perfect example. Last year I was in Iraq, and we had interviewed a refugee who lived through Saddam Hussein's dictatorship. So I'm sitting with them and we're interviewing them. And we had this big conversation about Trump and certain things that Trump was doing with sanctions. At that point, this was February of 2025, so right about a year ago. This was when a lot of media was being suppressed by Trump and trying to get them kicked out of the Pentagon, calling them not just fake news, but like just straight up telling them, like, I'm not going to give you an interview. I'm not going to give you an interview. You can't come to the White House, the Pentagon, etc. And I have this refugee from Saddam's regime looking at me and saying, there's a few things that, Saddam did at the very beginning. He controlled all media. He dismantled the Department of Education. Heavy sanctions and tariffs on other countries around them in order to control our economy. So I'm sitting there, I'm going, this is literally what's happening in real time. So off camera, we have a bigger conversation, and he is just like, it was literally a conversation we called how to survive a dictator. And without saying it, it was us saying, these are the warning signs of what could happen in our own country. So fast forward 8 or 9 months later, I have this refugee tell me, like, your president of your country is making eerily, suspiciously same moves that Saddam, Assad, Bashar al-Assad in Syria.
I think that's being very careful in saying.
Right?
Yeah.
But then you fast forward 8 or 9 months later and you talk to the same refugee and he's like, I think your president's just an idiot. I don't know where all this is going. Like, what is this just an ego thing? Does he have people that he doesn't like follow through on certain things? And so it is just a very interesting place to be in the world. I think we have a current leader who looks within himself of what do I want versus what is the greater thing that's happening for my country. And I mean that in if you're a good president or a dictator. If you want to be a dictator per the way that history works, he's not making the right moves. He follows through until it gets to a certain point. And we can get into all the theories about it. I still argue every single thing is deflection from Epstein. I think 100% everything. We drop a bomb when something about Epstein also drops. So I think there's a lot there. Regardless of what you can say is happening or isn't happening, I have to do my part, which is if you're going to drop a bomb in this country, I got to make sure I can do what I need to do, which is tell their story so we are all aware so we can keep them alive. I have to keep myself so hyper focused and linear on that. Otherwise, I can lose myself in the universal story of what's happening in the world. I'm just going to focus on Malik in Gaza and tell her story of her uploading footage for our organization, and a Israeli jet fighter bombs her cafe and she dies. I'm going to tell her story. I'm not going to focus on all the other things. just Malik's story. That's my responsibility for today.
Okay. Well, without getting super political and asking you what your political beliefs are,
Yeah.
I would have to say
You can also ask me that too.
Okay. And I would, just to follow that up, say that yes, from a counseling perspective, from a clinical perspective, this war and this conflict and what is happening in our government is completely soul-serving.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it doesn't make any sense. It's not going to make any sense. It only makes sense to him.
Yeah.
I don't even think it makes sense to the people around him. Now, there's a lot of people around him that are, you could say, more in control than he is.
Yeah.
But I would say that he's just a mouthpiece, and he, by all means, is. I mean, that's why Iran doesn't want anything to do with him, because he can do more damage by being alive than dead.
There was
to the U.S.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, he's single-handedly bringing us down.
Oh, yeah. No, there was a story I always go back to of sometime around 2021, 2022, and Dr. Fauci was doing an interview, and they asked, when did, you and Trump start having conflict? And Fauci had done an interview that had gone, this was probably in the heat of COVID. So still at that point, even at that point, just 5 years ago, independent media wasn't a huge thing. Legacy media, CNN, Fox News, ABC, MSNBC, those were still, the majority was you go to these outlets, right? So Fauci does this interview and literally like publicly says, like what Trump said, what the president, his boss, he's lying. This isn't the truth. And that was rare, even for, this was in his, that first presidency. That was rare to see internal public conflict like that. So Fauci tells the story that immediately
they did a better job in his first presidency of reeling him in.
Sure. Yes.
Or at least challenging him.
Yeah.
People weren't afraid to challenge him.
No, they went into the second term with their gloves off. I think they knew we have 4 years to change everything, and we have to do this at hyperspeed. But in that first term, so Fauci said that, and then in this interview, he said that almost immediately Trump called him into his office, and he thought Trump was just going to go at him, called him a liar, called him something like ignorant, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. This was right after I think he made that fumble about like drinking bleach or something like that to get rid of COVID, or drinking hand sanitizer or something like that. And so Fauci says in this interview, he gets called in his office thinking like this is it, like he's going to scream, yell at me, and my career's over. Trump calls him to his office, and he has all the different news agencies on the screen. And he looks at Fauci and he says, "Do you realize how much attention your interview is getting right now? Like, look at this." Like, he's happy that Fauci said that because it created drama, which put Trump on the news again. I genuinely believe that Trump's ultimate goal is just to stay famous. And
it's always been his goal.
I don't think he cares about himself being not just good or bad, but being known as good or bad. He just wants to make sure people know his name.
Yep.
And there is no, it goes back to one of my favorite movies is Wolf of Wall Street. And they ask, what's your number? And one of the guys who is like one of the most corrupt people in number 2, he says, "My number is just more." And I think that's exactly what it is for our current leader of the free world. It's just more. More of what? Just more.
Until he dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer. So, I mean, I was there for his show and his books. And he's always been a grifter. He's a grifter.
Yeah.
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 I mean, if I could have convinced more people that wanted to listen to me, but no one wanted to listen. And I remember thinking, how did we not learn this the first time? But okay, let's redo it. I love redoing things. Um, okay, so yeah, we're an hour in and I've made it halfway down the page. So, what separates reporting from storytelling in your mind?
A lot of people like to just translate facts. And I will also say that needs to be a thing. I think there are a few reporters right now in Lebanon, and their main mission is to every single day let me tell you exactly what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
There is no personal bias. There is no maybe a lack of the emotion they wish they could show. They are just there to tell you the facts. I think that is important. That is good work. It's important work. It's needed work. That is not necessarily my work I do in this field. I think reporting for me personally should come through the lens of storytelling first. I want to make you aware of what is happening through this story. Again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, every universal thing that's happening in the world, how we remember it is through a particular story.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can tell you about Gaza through this woman who's making an iftar meal on a broken stove because her apartment was bombed, that's how I'm going to make you aware of the universal narrative happening.
Mm-hmm. So why is personal bias important?
I think that's just what I'm drawn to. I think some people are drawn to the straight facts. Some people are drawn to the system and the ordering of the events of the world. I'm just more interested in you, and I'm interested in what led you here to this space and the tattoos and the rings you have and why you chose that, why you have multiple nose rings as a Gen Xer. Like those are the things, right? Those are the things I'd be drawn to. I also I believe too, a lot of people they don't allow themselves to be drawn to asking those questions, you know?
Does it feel more authentic and real?
For me, it does. Yes, 100%. I also have had to be the guy that's just there to, I mean, especially 2 weeks ago, my job every single day was making reels about what was happening in Lebanon to essentially prime our audience to get ready for when we activated our emergency response, right? So, yeah, but all of that leads to telling the greater story of what's happening, those very little particular moments, right? And so if your story is about how you've eventually got yourself here physically in this space, how you've designed what your exterior life looks like from your interior life, that can speak to probably a lot of Gen Xers that are out there. I would argue that's one of the best ways to tell stories. It's also just, that's what I'm just personally drawn to as well.
I like it. That's what I'm drawn to as well. Okay, how do you decide what is yours to document and what isn't?
I think it's two things. It's either what I want to actually talk about, or it's something that someone handed to me to talk about. I think it's really that simple. It is, we have this thing, we think you have whatever it is that I might have in order to tell this well. Or it's me going, the Grand Wizard of the KKK is also a pastor and no one's talking about this. And I want to know where this came from and how he got to this particular conclusion. And I need to translate this story so other people know as well. So I think it just comes down to what I want to talk about or what other people say I should talk about.
How do you protect against becoming part of the narrative instead of documenting it?
Oh, man. I mean, there's a lot of intuitive checks and balances that I have to do. One is, I mean, the ground level is make sure your information's correct. But the second one is I purposefully do not inspect this just because I know it's worked for me for, 36, 37 years. I will step back once a project's done and I will watch it, and the only thing I will do is, how did this make me feel? And I will follow my intuition. If there's anything that I feel like has been almost always 100% accurate, it's my intuition on something. And if I have any sort of whatever X factor or gift or talent or something, literally, I think the thing I might have been handed is I can walk into a room and kind of gauge it pretty quick and go, there's something special here. Or I can go, there's something off here. I can't name it. But I just have a track record of saying like something's off, and there is, something off. So I think that's the thing that it always goes back to, is once I finish a project or a story, I will look at it and go, no, something doesn't feel right. And then my job becomes trying to investigate what's off here. What do I fix?
Okay. What has this work taught you about human behavior under pressure?
We are capable of so much more than what we think or imagine. I would have never thought I would have been comfortable someone driving 3 hours in the dead of night through the rock desert with some guy who does not speak English, hoping he's taking me, the right direction. I think experience and events that happen around us, I think we are just so much more capable than we think.
Yeah, we don't take any risks.
Mm-mm. Well, we definitely come from a place where, you take a risk and you take that PTO. People ask, do I have a job when I go back?
Or why were you taking PTO in the first place?
Yep. Yeah. As if that should even be a logical question. I think there's a lot of there's risk towards the American dream, or what we assume is the American dream, if we take those other risks. And when I say risk, I'm not talking about you taking a week off to go bungee jump in the Cayman Islands, right?
No.
I'm saying make the shifts that like you and I make in our lives, where we're like, we make this decision, there is no going back.
Yeah.
It's just whatever this turns into be. And God knows I have made decisions where I'm like, I think this is right. And then you get through it and you're like, yeah, this was dumb. And going back to the intuition thing, every single time I've made a wrong decision, I can look back and go, I did not trust how I felt.
Yeah.
Whether it's moving, or whether it's like literally just moving apartment to apartment or house to house, or if it's like literally a career driving decision. I think all you just whatever it is inside of you, say yes to it. Even if it doesn't pan out, it's fine. It's way better than you going work at Intel for the next 40 years. No, listen, no shade at anyone that works at Intel. But if you don't want to be working at Intel, then quit your fucking job and sell your house then.
Yeah.
Because you really want to end up in your 80s saying all I did was get a 401k.
Which may not even exist.
Yeah. Probably won't.
Probably not. When you were covering the ICE protests, what did you see that most people missed?
There was definitely, going back to my religious upbringing, all of that is so Christian/spiritually connected. When you have Christian nationalist agitators chanting God bless ICE as they are downing, there was a guy there, and it's all over my Instagram, but he kept shouting like illegals need to be deported, something like that, right? And he has a holster on, I shit you not, that has like a tall boy beer and a Red Bull, and he's like double fisting both, as he's also on like TikTok live with his little like gimbal whatever thing, and he's chanting like he's an agitator, right? So he's chanting God bless ICE, God bless ICE, God bless our troops, whatever. And he starts saying like illegals get deported, and someone says he's got a shirt too that like it's a Charlie Kirk God Bless America shirt or something. So it's evident where he falls on the spiritual spectrum, and someone yells at him, Jesus was an illegal. Or sorry, no, they shout, Jesus loves illegal immigrants. And sorry, no, I'm wrong. Someone says Jesus loves immigrants, and he says not the illegal ones. And then they shout back, Jesus was an illegal immigrant. What factually he was. And the guy just goes, okay. And I caught that it's on my Instagram, and I caught it on camera. And in my head, I'm like, holy shit, this is the entire thing. There's one side of people who just believe the things that they choose to believe in.
Yep.
And then there's another side that says, show me everything so I can make my own decision on this. And a lot of times when you say to yourself, show me everything so I can make my own assessment, you're probably going to leave the thing that you've been told. And so this is a guy who's out there getting all the clicks and follows and whatever off of doing what he knows he's doing, which is just trying to piss people off. So that is one thing I saw. I mean, there are multiple clips from that very particular time. I was here in Portland during the height of that. Then I went to Minnesota. I worked specifically with the Somali American community there. 80-ish% of them are actual like illegal or legal American citizens, right? And so what I kept seeing from both sides, Portland and Minnesota, was the complete opposite of de-escalation from our government. Mm-hmm. And we all know that, but when you see it firsthand, when you're literally in front of a line and you have your camera on and nothing is happening, and 15 DHS officers literally come at you with your press badge on, and you're just there. You're just standing there. It does something in you, because
it's intimidation.
In that moment, I remember thinking to myself, this is exactly what I felt when I was basically arrested at an IDF checkpoint coming out of the West Bank. Mm-hmm. We are no different than most places that have those same type of checkpoints throughout the world.
Nope. It has nothing to do with being illegal. Oh, it never did.
No, never did. No, absolutely not. It's all about a very small percentage of people at the very top trying to hold on to the thing that they have, which is, again, what we've already talked about: wealth, fame, power, and glory.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Okay, you already discussed that. What does minimizing harm actually look like in real time?
Give me some like specific, like what exactly? Like when you say the word harm, what's in your head? What are you thinking when you say that?
Well, I mean, how things get portrayed, obviously, through film. Again, just like with social media, I don't really know who you are. I think I know who you are. Mm-hmm. Right. So how do you tell a story that is, I mean, for the people who want to see everything and know everything, how do you tell it honestly while minimizing harm to Malik, who has their own story sitting in a cafe being blown up?
There are multiple layers of, I can have the best intention with something. It can actually harm the people that I'm literally trying to protect.
Yes.
And I've learned good ways and bad ways. I've made bad moves and I've made wise moves at the same time. I think, again, we live in an information age. The minute that your information, if you tell someone's story and there's just there's a clip in there that's accidentally from like 2017, you completely lose all validity in that person's story, which can then eventually harm them because no one cares about them anymore because they don't trust that story, right? And so I think the idea of, again, having your facts straight is so important and needed. The other one is by trying to tell this well, who could this harm that I'm not thinking about? And I went through the ropes with the KKK interview going, this, no one knows. Like, there's been people who have like interviewed him and made like funny memes and clips about him, whatever. He's been in the news because he has like a white pride billboard in his small town in Arkansas. Sure. But no one's talking about this Christian perspective. The guy runs a nonprofit, like no government oversight because it's a church. And yet the one terrorist organization in our country that's never been labeled a terrorist organization is directly connected. Why is no one talking about this? But then I had to ask myself, is this giving him a platform for those people? And after, I think it's close to like 5 or 6 million views across all socials with that whole thing, I got one DM that was like, hey, I live in Arkansas. I'm trying to contact Thomas Robb. Can you give me some information? I didn't know this existed. And I get that from other people who want to go and interview him. And I usually don't respond. But something about that one DM that I got, I was like, you don't look like a guy that's looking to interview him. Sure enough, I go to his Instagram and he's got like a prisoner of war flag and like a blue and white flag. And then he has a Confederate flag. And I'm like, oh shit, did my interview make you realize that the KKK is still alive because you want them to still be alive? So did I just give you permission to go be a part of what should be deemed a terrorist organization? So with the millions of positive responses, just that one is like, did I create harm? So it is, and I say this lightly, and I hope people understand, there will always be some essence of casualty in this work. And a lot of times it's to yourself. It's the nights you lay in bed going like, going back to that word harm, did I actually do more harm than good with this? And so, yeah, I think it's, you have to be honest with yourself in order to be honest with the story. And you just hope to God that it doesn't harm too many people in the process.
Okay, where do I go with that? What have you witnessed that has stayed with you?
The best meal I've had in my life, I've had 2 meals in my life that stand out to me. One was in the West Bank in Palestine at a restaurant. And this is not just Muslim generosity. This is Arabic generosity. You walk in as a guest and they go, is this your first time here? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God. They sit you down and they bring you everything. Literally everything.
I know.
It was the best. The olive oil that was on top of that hummus that came from an olive tree farm in Palestine.
Yep.
The taboon bread. I mean, he was making baklava that was coming from like a recipe from someone in Cyprus. I mean, I remember sitting there going like, this meal is blowing my mind. And then, so I think that's one thing. Another one was I was in Squire, West Virginia, which is the poorest county in America. And I was doing a documentary shoot on snake handling preachers. So preachers who dance with rattlesnakes. And they invited me to their pitch-in like lunch after the church service. And I had, her name was Betty, Grandma Betty's banana bread pudding. Blew my mind. Middle of nowhere, West Virginia. And so there's 2 places in the world that mean a lot to me personally just because of what I've experienced. Squire, West Virginia, the West Bank and Palestine. They are both suspiciously the same place, yet so different at the same time.
What does witnessing suffering do to a person over time?
Oh, yeah. I live with the understanding that everything is a gift, including the suffering that you experience. Doesn't mean it's good, but it does mean it can lead to something else. It's there are detailed things, and then there are big things. I don't know what long term. I'm going to use the word damage, but maybe that's too much of an intense word. I don't know yet, and I won't know for a while what the long term damage will be of the things that I've seen. I just know they are so counteracted by the good that I see happen in the world.
How would you measure it otherwise?
That's why I call it all a gift. Like, how can I be in a place that is occupied? The restaurant that I was in the West Bank had two IDF soldiers stationed right outside, and at any point they could not only take over that restaurant but literally murder that man and his children at any point. And you have someone that looks like me coming from a place that funds those people outside of your doors, and you invite me into, and then you refuse to let me pay and just say thank you for coming and telling our story. I remember when a lot of things in not in Gaza, but just things in Lebanon started happening. What a lot of people know is all humanitarian checkpoints in Gaza the exact same time were closed off. Mm-hmm. You cannot. No one's going in and out of Gaza. Gaza is the worst it has been since day one. And a lot is happening in the West Bank that a lot of people are talking about. And exactly where that man's, right outside of Bethlehem, where his restaurant is, there's a massive like Jewish settler compound being built. All history would point to that man is going to lose his restaurant and perhaps his life. Because I can tell you right now, Muhammad is not going to be leaving his restaurant willingly. And so there is...
As he shouldn't.
As he shouldn't, no. But he also shouldn't have to lose his life over that either.
Nope.
And so I think there are things, going back to your idea of like experiencing suffering. I am grateful that my frame can take on that suffering. I think I can experience more than I think a lot of other people can, sure.
Why?
Not to make it sound so dramatic, but I think suffering has been a core piece of my life, both in my childhood or upbringing. Going into my 20s, wondering if I could ever walk outside without having a panic attack ever again. There's been, suffering looks different for everybody, but I've had to learn how to deal with a lot of shit. And so I think being able to have that perspective while then walking into a place like the West Bank and seeing all the suffering that they too have to deal with, and knowing mine is still relevant, but it's not this type of suffering, that allows me to, again, call it all a gift. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, like, even suffering is a gift. The suffering that I may have had to experience early on in my life led me to be able to do this work I'm doing today. Mm-hmm. That is why to me, it's all a gift.
Do you feel like the suffering that you've experienced has given you perspective?
Oh, 100%. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why telling their story, I think, matters a lot, because there's a lot of my own story in their stories as well.
Mm-hmm. The response to your SNAP initiative was pretty massive. Mm. I know it's still ongoing. What did that reveal to you about people?
So, alongside doing conflict reporting and journalism, I have a co-owner. We have a nonprofit coffee shop in Portland. Up until October of last year, most people had no clue. My studio I work out of here in Portland is it's a door right behind Heretic. If you weren't part of my inner circle, you didn't know that. We put out a post in October when SNAP was shutting down. If you need to eat, come get food from us. If you're losing your SNAP benefits, no questions asked, no proof needed. And like literally overnight, it turned into, like, just factually, globally went viral. We had people donating from Ireland, Egypt, Japan. So yeah, it was insane, and it needed both fortunately and unfortunately. I had to kind of come out of hiding with it. I didn't publicly put myself out there with Heretic because of the other work that I do, because that comes with death threats, and I've had to do a cease and desist. I had a stalker, so like there's things that come with it. But it needed someone to speak to that moment, and we all were like, it needs it. This is what Josh does, so like that makes sense. So the impact was unlike anything I've ever seen. We raised $360,000 in less than a week by someone in a comment saying you should have a donation link, and so it was beautiful. And yeah, we're still doing it, and it changed our little, it changed our coffee shop forever. That is one of my favorite shows of all time is Gilmore Girls, and when I'm out in the field, things can be crazy. When I come home, that shop is like Luke's diner for me, where it's like, this is the thing that grounds me. This is life. This is community. I love walking out of my studio after having to do a hardcore edit and go sit outside and watching people come in. And we've seen so many first dates and so many breakups and people coming in, getting laid off, or people interviewing over Zoom or in person. It's a mixed bag of what happens in that shop. Now we do all those things, and at the same time, we feed up to 50 people for free every day. I think we're nearing over 5,000 people since October of last year.
And one of your first was an 11-year-old?
One of the first, the very first was an 11-year-old kid. We had put it on our socials a couple of days before Snap was going to get shut down. So we had donations coming in. Some 11-year-old kid came in and asked if he could get the breakfast a couple of days early. And the amount of just like anger, like literal rage that was in all of us. And that was actually the post that went the most, whatever you want to call it, viral or got most attention. Of all places, Threads was the place where Heretic really kind of popped off. And I put on there, I was like, some kid just came in to ask us for it because he doesn't have money now. So I literally said on there, I was like, fuck it, it's open. If you need food, just come get food from us right now. It's officially started. And that was the tipping point where like literally overnight, it was like $50,000-$60,000 came through.
Mm-hmm. And the rage came from the fact that not only are people losing their benefits, but primarily it's children that are starving. We think of adults.
We have a kid that lives in a city that at any, 2 or 3 buildings has food, and he's walking around our city looking for something to eat. Like, how dare us send money to other countries to bomb other people when we can't fund, or we choose not to fund, a starving kid in what we call a first world, fully modernized city. Like, how that's where that rage came from. That rage came from me being in places where children have more access to food than the kids do here.
I know. They have more access to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Specifically, Israel has access to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we've been paying for them since before you and I were born,
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've been contributing to that. And then because there's a lack of honesty and transparency, we didn't realize what we were contributing to.
Yep.
This entire war machine.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to stop. Boy, I hope we do it. Okay. So scooting down a little bit. What responsibility do individuals have when systems fall short?
I think both history and just our DNA, our human species, we are designed, or we should be designed, to take care of one another. So one of the things we were saying during the big Snap roller coaster was when the system fails us, it's on one another to take care of one another. And I think we see that with protests that happened right before Saddam's regime ended in Iraq, where people were being literally were being shot by snipers on a roof during a protest, and people still refused to leave to topple his dictatorship. We see that there. And then we see it with people walking into our coffee shop and just going, "Can I give you $5 so you can help feed people?" The only way forward is for all of us to care for all of us. I think it should be as simple as that.
Well, I think that's the direction we're heading. I mean, I don't think we have any choice. Yeah. We're being forced into it.
Right. And it shouldn't have come to that point where we are forced. Imagine what we could have been doing if care and concern for one another wasn't forced upon us, but it was a choice that we could make.
Well, back to that self-interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And risk-taking. Yeah. We're only going to take...
that's a good point, right?
Yeah.
It's an actual risk to care for other people.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, because we haven't even gotten into your death threats or anything else that's happened to you because of the work that you do. Mm-hmm. That's a risk.
Yeah.
That's a risk that most people are not willing to take because it puts you in the spotlight. And then, of course, you're subject to a bunch of criticism and judgment because of what it is that you're doing or how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And now we're so interconnected so quickly that it can spiral out of control. And there's a lot of fear there.
Yeah. And people want a response. We are now conditioned to, if someone has critique, they want your response immediately. Yeah. And that happened during the SNAP thing. On day 3, mind you, at that point, I've never taken, outside of stipends when, shit got crazy at Heretic, I have a full-time job outside of Heretic. That became my full-time thing. And then my full-time job was what I did after the shop was closed. So we're feeding, at that point with Heretic, we were feeding about 100 to 150 people a day. And this is day 3. On top of that, we have all these new people coming in just because they know about Heretic. For about a week straight, we had a line out to the sidewalk. There was one Saturday before we opened, a half hour, 30 minutes before we opened, we had a line that went through our gravel parking lot, like weaved, like a concert, like venue line. That was day 3. And at the same, right around then, you have critiques from both sides of people. You have critiques mainly on Facebook. You have a bunch of critiques from people saying don't feed people that don't have jobs because they're just being lazy. And then you have other people on what I guess you would call like the left or the liberal side or whatever, saying why is a coffee shop getting all this money when there's a bunch of mutual aid places that need all this money? So you're trying to there's both sides trying to cancel you. And I remember there was one day where I saw that 9 hours later, because I hadn't been on my phone though. I'm like literally trying to.
You're working
through 300, 400 plus people coming through the door that day. And what I saw first was people saying, see, they've been silent for 8 hours. I'm like, what have we been silent about? I literally haven't had my phone like all day. So going back to your thing, like that idea of people assume we're all doom scrolling all day or immediate response. I just don't read comments anymore. There's been like very little things I've had to do in my life. Runs, talk therapy has never really worked ever for me because their job is to get inside of me and my job is to get inside of other people as well. So usually wherever they're going, I kind of feel it. So like the idea of talking through therapy, like it's always like, so tell me about this. And I'm like, I know where this is going. Like, let's just go to the end result of that. And then we can work things through. So my therapy comes through other things. Like literally, man, it's bare bones, but sleep, hydration, physical fitness, and good nutrition is the way I'm able to do all the things I do in my world.
Yeah, of course.
That is just a massive.
You're just healing
that is like,
your body.
Yes, and then also like healing your inner world, not just like your inner organs, but your your inner soul as well. The way that I feel after a run is unlike anything, right? So you have that, and then there's other boundaries that I think I've had to set when you have a coffee shop that accidentally went viral, and then whatever it is, 60,000 other people on Instagram following you. You get hundreds of comments on everything, and I just don't read them. And that has been huge. Even though 99% of them are positive, that also becomes fatigue, where you're getting so much affirmation where you're like, I can't take on one more hug. I can't take one more thing like, hey, you're doing an amazing job. And I don't know what
so
that
then
is.
you get direct message from me and you're like, shut up.
No. But okay, to that point where it's like things, you're holding all these like responsibilities and you have people like, oh, you have all this purpose, whatever. And you're like, man, I just want to go home and pet my dog.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to go home.
I want to take a nap.
I want to take a nap. Right. Yeah.
And not worry about my Instagram feed
blowing
up.
Yeah. And I think that's been a huge like healing thing for me. I will say, and I haven't really talked about this a lot publicly, but even October through January of last year with the Heretic thing, I think it legitimately, I will say first, it is the biggest act of generosity I've ever seen in my life, hands down. The amount of adrenaline and momentum that it took out of me to keep up with that, on top of all the other things that people didn't see were going on behind the scenes, i.e., you get done with Heretic and you've got to go edit a video of someone else's house getting bombed.
Yeah.
It was a lot to juggle, and I gained something like 30 pounds around that time.
Of course you did. You were trying to protect yourself.
I think I aged a little bit during that. I've got a few gray hairs coming in that I wasn't expecting.
Sorry.
No, I mean, it wasn't like a gradual thing. It was literally
not
90.
Not mean to laugh at you.
No, listen, I think I'm going to look pretty good with gray hair. So like, I'll take it. But you sometimes see that through a period of a year.
Yes.
To literally see yourself aging literally every day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, dude, like what just happened overnight? Like, It wasn't like you weren't like noticing it. You didn't look like this. Your eyes didn't look like this the day before. Yeah. So it was a lot to take in. It did some damage that I'm now trying to reverse in some ways. Yeah.
Good eye cream.
Yes. Yes. Trust me, I've made the investment.
Sorry, I'm a little bit further down the path than you. That's where the laughing came from. Because I wish my phone didn't listen to me. It gives me way too many recommendations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We kind of talked about what scares you, or are you scared? But what scares you the most about this work?
I think what scares me the most about this work is that, okay, here's something very, very particular. It scares me when the places that I have to post it get to choose how many people get to see it. We hear all the time about shadow banning and certain things not getting pushed by the algorithm, right?
Yeah.
There's one reel that I have that's not really work related that did over 7 million views. And the engagement was something like 20 or 30%, which usually the average is like 3 to 5%. So it had huge engagement. I have done recent reels with Lebanon that have gotten 2,000 to 3,000 views, but have 60% plus engagement. And then, not to get nerdy, but like the way it gets pushed out is this thing called ranking, where it's like, if so many people in the first few hours like, comment, whatever, it gets pushed out again and again and again. And when you see the reel that did 7 million views, you see the reel for Lebanon that did more engagement than the reel that got pushed out to 7 million people, but it gets suppressed at 2,000, you're like literally sitting there going like, then what the hell do I do? Like, I did everything, and it seems like people are interested, but it's just no one. It's not going anywhere. Like, I think it did 2,000 views, and it has like over 1,000 likes with 2,000 views, which means like more than 50% of the people that watched it engaged with it, which is mind blowing analytics. And so that makes me afraid of like the amount of media suppression that can happen. I'm not saying that it
That we're not even
is
aware of.
that
We're
we're not,
not
oh
even
no,
aware of.
100%, 100%. And so,
I mean, I am,
yeah,
but I'm not average.
right. And I mean,
I've been watching Italian news and
right,
BBC
yeah.
for
Exactly.
since he got elected, basically.
We all follow the independent journalists
Yeah.
that live in those places, and then that gets picked up from a different country. So it goes viral in America because it went viral first in, Egypt or whatever. We see those, but that is such a small fraction of how many other people. I would also argue the people who saw that aren't the ones who can fiscally make the change too for the people that are being impacted. So I think that's a fear. And then I think just the more generalized fear that I have is any of this making a difference, period.
Do you wonder?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't say it's a daily driver. Would it matter? I think for me, it would matter more than almost anything else. It's not a daily driver. I don't drive. How should I put this? I drive off of positive influence that comes from my life, but there are a few times where I choose it. This might not even be, this is not advice for the people, but there are some times where I have to choose. I need to utilize my fear in order to complete this project today. The fear of, if I don't do this today, I might turn into the person that I don't want to be.
That's a huge motivator.
Fear can be a massive motivator. I think there's a lot of collateral damage that can come from using it as a motivator, though, because fear within itself, at least again, in my opinion, is a core emotion of the human experience, what it means for us to be human. It should not be a daily driver, because I think joy in what you do will eventually turn into cynicism if fear is the engine that you're using.
Okay. But I would argue that your fear of becoming your worst nightmare, paying off a mortgage, is a huge motivating force for you. It
is. There's like a fear on top of that fear, which is like, but what if I fall into that? And even by using that fear, it's still one. And so there's like a fear on top of that fear that's just like, it's always, and it also depletes you. Like me trying to create something out of fear, it
depletes everybody. Yeah.
I exhaust my resources, my internal emotional resources vastly quicker. I don't produce as good, but if I just need to get it done, sometimes that's what I'll, hinge on.
Yeah. Well, I think we all do, but if we all work from fear, whether or not it's a huge motivator or not, it's a place of lack or scarcity. Yeah. It's also our nervous system is like our nervous system isn't exactly in its best when we're motivated by fear.
Yeah.
So very quickly can burn you out. I would agree. Do you think it's possible to care deeply without becoming overwhelmed?
I think it's more of a question of quality of care than it is quantity of care. I think you can care deeply in the capacity that you are built to care for. I think there are people in the world who care deeply about their children, and everything they do is hinged or capitulated towards care for them. That is quality.
Ooh, this is interesting.
That is quality care, and that is deep care. So yes, I believe that. And then there's quantity care. The people that come through Heretic, the people that we like literally try to keep alive in our work. My range is there is a lot of quantity of care that also has to have quality. If there's surface level care for the work that I do, then the care can become meaningless, which that does play into what we've already talked about, which it comes with sacrifice. It comes with damage. I am well aware the way that I am currently living my life. I don't want to stop it.
Do you think it's sustainable?
I'm asking myself the question, is this sustainable? And there's like certain like little things. I know the things I need in my life for me to be grounded in order to keep going. I often wonder, am I going to get the result of that question by the consequence? Meaning, am I going to realize this wasn't sustainable the minute that I burn out? I definitely, 2023, 2024, 100% burned out. I learned through being damaged.
We mostly do.
Right? And so I'm trying to get to a point where I'm like, can I see the signs? Or some of my friends have this saying for me that I like to live my life high speed, no bail, which is just like, fuck it, let's go as fast as we can. And I'm really good at that, right? And because I'm really good at that, that means the high speed, no bail usually means no brakes, which usually means, oh my God, there's a tree in the middle of the road. We're going to crash regardless.
What about casualties?
Okay. So, man, so that's a great question. I think that's why I keep a lot of people at arm's length in my life.
You think?
Because if I bring you two in,
what happens?
I'm going to hurt you. And it's not because of something that I do intentionally to hurt you. Mm-hmm. You are going to be collateral for something that I do to myself. And I have the track record for that. This sounds so depraved, and I don't mean it this way. The idea of having like really, really close friends for me in my life, the last 5 years or so is very foreign. I was just talking to someone else the other day about this, that like, I'm not really looking for close friends right now because I don't want them to be affected by the things that I do. And what I mean by that is, I don't like how this is saying when it comes out of my mouth, but you might have a birthday party. I might have to get on a plane to go to Iran.
Yeah.
And so there
you don't want to let anyone down?
I think that's a big one. And I think that's even like, I think I have had people in my life that say, I am in this with you. I know this is who you are. And then we start walking through that and they're like, yeah, this is a lot. This is more than what I realized it was.
So you feel like you have to protect everybody from it?
Yeah, I just don't want to hurt people, you know? Mm-hmm. And if that means keeping most people in my life at arm's length to where it's like, you're my friend and we love each other, but I can't let you go any deeper into this. So if I don't show up to your party, it's not going to be like man, where's Josh? It's going to be like, oh yeah, he's probably out somewhere. Like, that's cool. Because we're not that deep, you know? And I think that's a really big part of this work that I do.
It sounds lonely.
Yeah, it can. There are many nights where, yeah, you are literally alone. It makes it easier when you're on the road because
that's why you stay busy.
I think work is a substitute for other things. And this is not me even trying to make excuses. I think my work is a substitute for even my own personal community. I am surrounded by people at the shop or in the airport or in a foreign place. I am always, always, always around people. So it almost, that gives me that reduces the amount of loneliness I might feel.
Because you're never really alone.
Exactly.
Unless you choose to be.
Unless I choose to be, which I find a lot of fulfillment in being by myself sometimes too. It's a very rare occurrence, but I'm also just not, I was never primed or created to be the guy that goes out to the bar. You know what I mean? Like if I go to a party, I'm usually the guy in the corner with like a cheese plate, just like, yeah, I'll stay over here and do the Irish goodbye in about 30 minutes. I'm really good in whatever you want to call it, conversation or work. But yeah, put me at a table with a board game. I could put on a good front for sure, but I'm really good one-on-one. But in a sense of like community, it's difficult. And that's coming from someone, especially in my religious years, everything was hinged on that. Same with Heretic. Everything is hinged on that community. I am just not personally, I can't, there's a boundary for me right now that I'm trying to figure out. And that comes with, too, like, yeah, a huge Instagram following, both with the coffee shop, with yourself personally. You should go through my DMs. There's some crazy things in there. And there's some really beautiful things, and I'll just leave it at that. It can get pretty crazy. But you know, like I said, like that turns
so
into.
Curious now. What does that mean? Do you get hit on?
Oh, it's. You might need to. We can talk about all that one after, but like, it is. On an average day, it can be, and I'm nowhere near the only person that deals with this by far, but like it could be anything from a death threat to someone asking you out to the most craziest conspiracy theories you've ever heard of in your life. And so a lot of times I just don't go through the DMs. And when I do, it's usually a bad time. But yeah, that turns into people taking pictures of your studio windows and literally putting your address in a DM and saying that you're no good in this world at any point they can take you out. And then it's other people. I'm pretty sure I can talk about this publicly, but like I had another person who was like stalking me, found my home address, and she was stealing like my junk mail. Nothing important, but like junk mail out of my mailbox. So all those little things come with the overall attention, but that points back to like, I wouldn't want someone else to have to go through that. So if I keep you at arm's length, you're not gonna have to deal with, if this person over here who's stalking me knows you're a close friend, she might come after you. Or if this person who sent me the death threat knows you're a close friend. That's why like my personal life is nowhere to be found publicly on social media anymore. And that's actually a major reason why none of our baristas, volunteers, whatever at Heretic were the ones in the news. Because I knew from my other work, if this is going the way it's going, this is going to get negative for a small group of people. And I don't want you to have to deal with that. I have walked through the experience of what that is. So as those death threats come, they need to come to me, not to you, which is why we had a rule. Like if the media comes in, do not get on camera, only have Josh do it. And it was literally because of that reason. I don't want you to have to deal with Gary from Beaverton, stalking you. Yeah. That's the arm length, I think, philosophy for me in some capacity. I know that of all things that are not, that is not sustainable, that is the one thing that is not sustainable. I crave for deep, intimate relationships. But I also, the fear of bringing people in outweighs my want for that.
So does anybody truly see you?
I think there's a few. My rescue pup does, for sure.
Does your mom know what's going on?
Yeah, I relay information that needs to be relayed to her.
Mm-hmm.
She cares about me so much that she worries,
Mm-hmm.
right? And nearing 40 in a handful of years in my life, I want her to not have to worry about what I'm doing. Because God knows there's things that she doesn't know about that I hope she never has to be worried about. Whether it's the next time I'm in Syria or the next thing that pops off here in Portland, whatever it is. I don't want her to have to worry if I brought my press Kevlar to the next protest, or if the guy who picked me up from the Baghdad airport, is a reliable fixer to get me where I need to go. Those are the things I don't talk to her about. The things I'll talk to her about are just I try to talk to her about like everyday life, and mainly about hers. I try to do my best to keep the focus on her, or I'll just call her and be like, yeah, I had to deal with this person at the shop today. Let me tell you about this. Do things. Or it's all the movies that I grew up watching that I probably shouldn't have been watching when I was a kid that we both, enjoy watching. We'll talk about those little things. I'll ask her for the, whatever it is, the cornbread recipe that she had growing up, and we'll talk about that. I keep the harder things out of those conversations. And again, I don't think that's for her specifically. I think that's more.
It's for you.
I think so. I believe it is. There was a time where I was investing everything that was happening to her. She knew, and I could tell she was like, you can't keep doing this to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like any relationship, you have to learn your boundaries, and you have to learn what is good here and what is not. I think I've just seen too many people come in and then have to exit. When I know I am choosing not to change how I live my life. And of course, like there's personal growth. There's things with every relationship that you learn how to, there is always sacrifice made on both sides with every friendship, relationship, whatever. The amount of sacrifice I can make for my work in the world right now, I don't feel like, I have seen it cause more damage than good in relationships. And so it's still something that I'm trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out too, and my life is not as dangerous by any means. Okay, let's see. How do you define a life well lived?
You go to the West Bank and you sit at a restaurant of someone you never even knew existed, and you hear about their life and eat the best goddamn hummus you've ever had. And then you go back home and you go back to West Virginia and you go have Aunt Betty's, Grandma Betty's banana pudding, then watch some guy dance around with a rattlesnake on a church service. And then you go home and you see Kenny and Neil and Karma come through your coffee shop, and you get some sun from the window coming in, and you go for a run, and you take your dog out for a walk, and you go to bed just say all of this is a gift. For me, that is a life well lived. I am here to understand everything we have is a gift that can be shared with one another. And I hope the people I share the gift of life with, they too can then see that their life and life itself is also a gift. For me, that would be a life well lived.
What brings you peace?
I have always been a fan of simple things. Moments where nothing is due, no one is being harmed, and I can sit on my back porch with a cup of coffee, my dog playing in the yard, and it's a nice sunny day, and everything just feels, at least it feels at peace. The very small moments, the grounding moments, the moments that aren't, the moments that do not look special, but are just ordinary. The ordinary for me is the thing that brings me the most peace.
What would you say to someone who wants to do what you do?
I don't know if I'm ever going to come across someone who wants to do what I do, mainly because they're not asking for permission to do it. They're already doing it.
Okay.
They're not looking at other people for advice. They're just already out there doing it.
Okay. What does it mean to you to be a good human?
Figure out what you want to do. Figure out the people you want to be invested in and with. And give both of those things everything you have. The people in your life and whatever it is that you can offer to the world.
You got it all figured out. Where are you headed next? I should say internally, not just professionally.
Yeah. So for both, I mean, the first easy one is professionally. I have a documentary series coming out soon, with the KKK Grand Wizard. I went to like a neo-Nazi compound. I went to a cult, a Buddhist monastery, a snake handling church, and the last one in America. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but there's something else in there. Anyways, I did an interview with a witch and a death doula. So all of that is comprised into a series that's going to get released here
Where is
soon.
it getting released?
I should be putting the trailer out for it sometime either next week or the week after. So it was supposed to come out spring of this year, and I had a few more trips lined up, and then the snap thing at Heretic happened last year, and it put a pause on everything. So I kind of got back into it beginning of this year, and yeah, so that's, I think, professionally the next one, of course.
Are you doing that on your own? Like that's a solo?
Yeah, so it was kind of a solo thing. So there's two parts of my reporter life, I guess you want to call it. One is the humanitarian journalism I do, which helps keep people alive. The other one is just documentary storytelling, like the series that is there to remind us why we're alive in the first place. And so I kind of live both of those in their own little buckets. Heretic's always there too, which is just a beautiful little gift in Portland. And then, so I think that's where I'm going professionally. Of course, I'm sure I'll be in the Middle East sometime here soon for more work, or we're looking at maybe Ukraine. My work is building bomb shelters there, so we might try to get there to do some work. The minute that Gaza is open to reporters, I will hopefully I will get to be one of the first people in line to get in, I hope. So that's kind of what's coming up there. Internally, where I'm going, it's just the next step. It's just whatever is the next thing in front of me. I do not have a 5-year plan. God, I don't have a 5-week plan. I know what my daily habitual life is here, and I know where it is on the road. And it's just whatever it is the next day when I wake up, what is the thing that matters the most that day?
After everything you've seen, what does it mean to love everything?
I would argue I am able to love everything because of the things that I've seen.
Tell me more.
When you see a family having their iftar meal in a home that has a hole in it because of a bomb, your love for what that family loves expands. when you go to a country that your country invaded, Iraq, and you sit with refugees and people who are the most generous people you've ever met. That expands your love. And then when you go to a witch's shop in Southern California, or you sit with a death doula and you talk about why you feel like you're not going to make it past 40 in the world, and you go to the poorest county in America and watch a bunch of people dance around in a church service with rattlesnakes. And then you have those intimate conversations with every single one of them. And you realize they too are humans who also love. Getting out of my bubble and allowing myself the freedom to see how love is expressed through all people and all things. I don't think there's any way out of not loving everything you see. Again, my job is to not report on the conflict. My job is to find the beauty that can be found in the midst of conflict.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.